I may do a picture now and then, but mostly I intend to work on the stage. Then this character I was supposed to play, this boy, this Val, he never takes a stand. I didn't really know what he was for or against. Well, you can't act in a vacuum. And I told Tennessee, so he kept trying. He rewrote it for me, maybe a couple of times. Tennessee has made a fixed association between me and Stanley Kowalski. I mean, we're friends. And he knows that as a person, I'm just the opposite of Kowalski, who was everything I'm against. Totally insensitive, crude, cruel. But still, Tennessee's image of me is confused with the fact that I played that part. So I don't know if he could write for me in a different color range. The only reason I did Guys and Dolls was to work in a lighter color. There aren't any parts for me on the stage. Nobody writes them. Go on, tell me a part I could do. Of course, movies date so quickly. I saw a streetcar the other day, and it was already an old-fashioned picture. Still, movies do have the greatest potential. You can say important things to a lot of people. I want to make pictures that explore the themes current in the world today. But I've very seriously thought about throwing the whole thing up. This business of being a successful actor. What's the point if it doesn't evolve into anything? All right, you're a success. At least you're accepted, you're welcome everywhere. But that's it? That's all there is to it? It doesn't lead anywhere. You're just sitting on a pile of candy, gathering thick layers of crust. Too much success can ruin you as surely as too much failure. Now, Van Gogh, there's an example of what can happen when a person never receives any recognition. You stop relating. It puts you outside. But I guess success does that too. You know, it took me a long time before I was aware that's what I was. A big success. I was so absorbed in myself, my own problems. I never looked around and took account. I used to walk in New York, miles and miles, walk in the streets late at night, and never see anything. I was never sure about acting, whether that was what I really wanted to do. I'm still not. Then when I was in Streetcar, and it had been running a couple of months, one night, dimly, I began to hear this roar. It was like I'd been asleep. And I woke up here, sitting on a pile of candy. A friend of mine, he's making a documentary, The Life of James Dean. He wants me to do the narration. I think I might. Maybe not, though. I get excited about something, but it never lasts more than 7 minutes. That's my limit. I never know why I get up in the morning. But I'm really considering this Dean thing. It could be important. Dean was never a friend of mine. That's not why I may do the narration job. I hardly knew him. But he had this fixed idea about me. Whatever I did, he did. He was always trying to get close to me. He used to call up. I'd listen to him, talking on the answering service, asking for me, leaving messages, but I never spoke up. I never called him back. When I finally met Dean, it was at a party where he was throwing himself around, acting the madman. So I spoke to him. I took him aside and asked him, didn't he know he was sick? That he needed help? He listened to me. He knew he was sick. I gave him the name of an analyst and he went. And at least his work improved. Toward the end, I think he was beginning to find his own way as an actor. But this glorifying of Dean is all wrong. That's why I believe the documentary could be important, to show he wasn't a hero. Show that he really was just a lost boy trying to find himself. That ought to be done, and I'd like to do it. Maybe as a kind of expiation for some of my own sins, like making The Wild One. That French movie star, Arletty, I was really in love with her. My first trip to Paris, the thing I did right away, I asked to meet Our Lady. I went to see her as though I were going to a shrine. My ideal woman. Wow. Was that a mistake? Was that a disillusionment? She was a tough article. But I'll tell you, Spencer Tracy is the kind of actor I like to watch. The way he holds back, then darts in to make his point, darts back. Tracy, Muni, Cary Grant, they know what they're doing. You can learn something from them. Acting is such a tenuous thing, a fragile, shy thing that a sensitive director can help lure out of you. Now, in movie acting, the important, the sensitive moment comes around the third take of a scene. By then, you just need a whisper from the director to crystallize it for you. Elia Kazan can usually do it. He's wonderful with actors. People ask me about that car ride scene on the waterfront. That was a 7-take scene. And I didn't like the way it was written. Lots of dissension going on there. I was fed up with the whole picture. All the location stuff was in New Jersey, and it was the dead of winter, the cold, Christ. And I was having problems at the time, women trouble. That scene, let me see. There were 7 takes because Rod Steiger couldn't stop crying. But I can't remember just when, just how it crystallized itself for me. Truman Capote finished his interview after midnight, said goodnight, and then walked back to his hotel on the dark, empty streets of Japan. He said, "I had trudged for more than a mile. It was then that I saw Brando, 60 feet tall, with a head as huge as the greatest Buddha's. There he was, in comic paper colors, on a sign above a theater that advertised the tea house of the August moon. Rather Buddha-like, too, was his pose, for he was depicted in a squatting position, a serene smile on a face that glistened in the rain and the light of a street lamp. A deity, yes, but more than that, really just a young man sitting on a pile of candy."